Hi, I'm Jim Watson, and this is Call It the Battle. The question for the men is do you know who you are? I mean, do you know you truly know your identity? Because let me tell you, if you do not know your identity, the world is going to tell you who you are, and that is never good. God made us. He made us a specific way, and basically to be a specific way. We have an identity in Him, which if we know it, the world can't mess with it. If because we know God told us who we are. I saw this article, and I thought this was sad. This is incredibly sad, but not what you may first think. You might have saw this. Let me show you it. It's about this teenage girl who allegedly slugs an Asian woman and attacks a witness in possible hate crime on New York City subway. Now, the teenage girl, which they left out, I said, just to cover everything, is African American, and she hits this Asian woman, tells her to go back to her home. This is all part of the article. But here's the sad part. The wife gets hit a couple of times. Another woman who's recording gets hit. She gets punched in the face. Her glasses break and so forth. And here has to be the saddest part of the whole thing. It says, well, police are investigating the assault as a potential hate crime over some of the teens' torments. The victim told ABC they don't think the attackers were racially motivated, though they still want there to be accountability, even though they were telling these people who are Asian to go back to their homeland. I don't know how that is not racist. But it says, we don't know what battles other people have in their lives, but I can imagine they're probably not as privileged. Sue Young's husband told the station that probably has a lot to do with their outlook on the world and the anger they may have. So the woman who gets attacked, her husband, first of all, does not defend her. She ends up having bruises on her body. Another woman gets attacked. The man doesn't defend her. And then he makes the excuse, well, we have a more privileged upbringing. I don't know what there was, so I know I can feel sympathy. So what he is saying is you have a difficult upbringing, which many do. You have a right to go around beating people up because I don't know what it's like. No, I'm sorry, and this is harsh. That man's a coward. I mean, he has twin daughters. And the sad part of it is he just showed his daughters that a man does not defend his wife and does not defend his children and does not defend women. I saw this. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Someone comes after my wife. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I'm getting between you and my wife. I'm going to defend her. Why? Because I know my identity. I know why God made me. I know what a man is in the eyes of the Lord. And I'm going to stand up for my wife. And I'm going to make sure that no one touches her. And this guy allowed his wife to be hit a few times. Oh, because he didn't know they may have had a difficult upbringing. So they have a right to smack your wife around? Are you crazy? And it was girls doing it. I don't care if it was girls. I don't care if it was men. You don't lay your hands on my wife, and you don't lay your hands on other women. But as I looked at this guy, I'm thinking, I don't know anything about him. I'm thinking, he has no identity of what a man is. No identity of who he is. He's allowed the world to tell him, I guess, that men are supposed to be passive. Men are supposed to let their wives be abused. I mean, it's scary. This is where we're heading because I truly believe that men don't know their identity. Now, I'm not saying that you should have been there and start punching these girls and taking them out. No, you can actually control the situation without being violent, or at least you can be protective. His biggest participation in this whole event is he told the girls, could you use different language? And when he said that, they got more violent. Why? Because they knew he wasn't going to do anything. He didn't stand up and get in their face and say, you need to change your language. He should have stood up in front of them and say, hey, listen, this has got to stop now. He should have been a force that says, hey, this ends here, this ends now. And what's even sadder is there's other men there who didn't get involved either. They allowed women to be smacked around. And I'm like, are you kidding me? What has happened? And part of it is like, well, if I get involved, then I'll be accused of something. Well, yeah, you may be. But if you know your identity, part of what we do is we protect women. Men are here to protect women. And people, well, they'll call you that toxic masculinity. Okay, fine. And I think that's the world we're in now, where people are afraid of labels. You want to say I'm a toxic masculinity? Go ahead. But my wife is going to be safe. My wife is not going to come to any harm. I'm going to protect her. No, if that's toxic masculinity, then that's what I got. Because no one's going to lay on her. No, you try to lay a hand on my daughter-in-laws, you're going to deal with me because I'm going to protect them. It doesn't mean you're looking to fight. It doesn't mean you're looking to pummel people. It doesn't mean you're looking to kill people. But you're there to protect. And I will protect them. And that's what I don't get. I have a good friend from Florida. I love this guy. His name is Dwayne. And he was born and raised in Florida. Matter of fact, he likes to say, Walt Disney destroyed Florida. I know it was like number 2 in cattle raising and cattle farming and stuff like that, or cattle drives and all that, raising cattle and so forth. But my friend Dwayne grew up, he liked to joke, I grew up on bullfrogs and alligators. This guy has killed so many alligators and bullfrogs, but the guy, he's killed, wild hogs, and wild hogs are probably pretty serious in Florida. I discovered that when I lived there. Man, that's a serious thing. But almost every animal he has killed, he knows how to skin it, he knows how to cook it, he knows how to clean it. His preparation is amazing. He's a great cook. And he said, listen, if technology was to end tomorrow, if every piece of electricity, technology ended tomorrow, he goes, I'll be just fine. I can survive. He knows how to do it all. And one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, one of the gentlest guys you'll ever meet. And I remember someone telling me, when he said, yeah, Dwayne has a gun on him at all times. I would never have thought this. This guy just seems like a meek, mild, mannered reporter from a great metropolitan newspaper. No, he's a meek, mild guy. And he and I were working at the church, and we were doing some power washing. I said, hey, Dwayne, I hear you always have a gun on you. Is that true? He said, yeah. No, he just has shorts on or power washing, reaches in his pocket, pulls out. He goes, I got my 9mm on me, puts it back away. And then we get in his truck, and he says, pulls out like a 44. He says, I got this one, and I got my shotgun in the back. He goes, you're right. There's some knives there, and he has all these things. And I'm like, and I started laughing, like, well, you're safe. He said, well, Jim, I do a lot of hunting. I do a lot of fishing, and he goes, I clean all my own animals. I don't rely on others. I do it myself. But I remember he has girls and a son, and he said, Jim, all I know is I will protect my family. He said, I know when trouble is seconds away, the police are minutes away. No one in my family is ever going to be harmed because I wasn't ready to protect them. He goes, especially my girls. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, this is just this mild-mannered guy. But he knew who he was and what his job was as a husband and as a father. He goes, I raised my children. He goes, it's who I am. He said, I raised them how to hunt alligators. So he goes, my daughters, my son, how to hunt alligators, how to hunt deer, how to hunt wild hog, how to hunt bullfrogs. I taught them how to clean them and cook them. And he taught them everything. He says, my children can survive. This is who he was. He knew who he was. He's proud of who he is. He didn't care what people call him. Oh, you're a prepper. You want to call me a prepper? I don't care. Call me a prepper. He said, I can provide for my family. I can provide for myself. Now, he still hunts, and he's a great hunter. He eats really well. But he's like, call me what you want, but I know who I am. Now, this guy loved Jesus Christ passionately. I mean, he had done great work in the church, helped with our youth. I mean, he was just an amazing guy. And he was just gentle, wonderful man who knew who he was. And we have men who have no idea who they are, no identity at all. They're letting the world form who they are. No, God tells us who we are. And I've talked about this before. Jesus Christ was tough, man. He was not some weak, feeble person. One of the stories I love about Jesus is when he was being tried, and someone smacked him in the face. Turned the other cheek. Jesus looked down and said, hey, listen. I'm paraphrasing. He said, hey, listen. I have done nothing in hiding. What I've said, I've done in the public. You've heard everything I said. Now tell me what I've said that is wrong. Tell me what I've said that is worthy of you punching me in the face. He took these guys on. No, tell me what I've done. Nothing in hiding. Out in the open. I've been out in the open with my whole ministry. What have I done that makes me worthy of being punched in the face? No, he confronted it. He wasn't this guy who was cringing in the corner. He stood up to it. And at times when he was being accused, I think it was the Sadducees, and hoping I'm getting that one right, is I always forget Sadducees, Pharisees. When he was accusing him, he said nothing. He knew not to defend himself. It was useless. This guy doesn't want to know anything. This guy is just wasting my time. He's just doing it for show. And it was Cephas who did it to him, and then Cephas sends him away. And like, yeah, I'm not going to accuse him of anything. He didn't do anything wrong. No, for him, it was Jesus more of a joke. And Jesus didn't play into his game. He was smart enough to know this is a stupid game. I'm going to hold my tongue. His power to do that. But Jesus knew who he was and what he was called to do. He knew what his purpose was here. Do you know your purpose here? Men, do you know your purpose here? You should. God made you for a purpose. I mean, I love the book like Wild at Heart, Eldridge and stuff like that, where God tells us, basically, men are warriors. We have that spirit in us that wants to fight. I'm not talking about just beating up. I mean, just to fight for life. To go. I mean, when we were boys, think of our imagination. The games we played. It was just this passion we had. And I swear, ever since being boys, they were trying to beat it out of us. But we had this great passion in us to have adventure, to achieve, to strive. I'm about to do in October, I'm going for first time I ever attempted this, 100-mile bike ride. It's with an organization that's trying to stop the sex trafficking, the slave trade for sex trafficking, and they're doing it as a fundraiser. And my wife told her mother, yeah, Jim's going to attempt this 100-mile ride. And she's like, why? No, it's a great question. Why? Because it's something I want to see if I can do. I want to push myself. I want to push my body, because that's been me my whole life. I remember I did a bike ride about 15 years ago or so. When I was much thinner and in better shape. I rode 3 mountains in 3 days. I mean, 3 mountains in 1 day, not 3 days. It would have been nicer that way. 3 mountains 1 day. It was about 70 miles, 70 plus miles of doing 3 mountains. I did it because I wanted to take on the challenge. I've done a marathon because I wanted the challenge. I've done a triathlon because I wanted the challenge. I've climbed mountains because I want the challenge. That's part of me, of who I am. It doesn't mean, to be a man doesn't mean you have to do sports. Being a man doesn't mean you have to do these crazy things that I do. But I know who I am. I know how God designed me. I know my purpose. And so I'm going to do that. And you can use all the names you want to call me, but I tell you one thing. I don't care. I know who I am in the Lord. And men, we have to find out who we are in the Lord. We have to know our identity in the Lord, because when the world comes to knock us down, they won't be able to if we know who we are in Christ. That's so important. So it begins by knowing Christ. I mean, we've got to have a band of brothers around us. We need Christian men around us who are going to help us go on this journey to discover who we are, to find out how he made us, how we created, what is our passion in us, how are we designed? Because he has a way we are designed, our personality-wise, our gift-wise, our talent-wise, it's all there. But once we know who we are, we can become that which he has desired us to be. And I tell you, looking at this thing from New York City needs some men who know who they are. This stuff should not be happening. Men, we got to realize how God made us and be proud of that and stand for that. Our wives have to know. Our girlfriend has to know. Our daughters have to know. Our mothers have to know. Our sisters have to know. Our grandmother has to know that when we are there, they have someone who's going to protect them, because we know who we are in Christ. And I tell you, God made man to protect women. That's one of the reasons he created us. We are protectors. And I tell you, if they want to call that toxic masculinity, say thank you, because that's God's design. It is God who designed masculinity and femininity. That is God's design, not us, and he calls it good. All right. I hope you're having a great week. I look forward to talking to you again. God bless.